Hi, this is Dan Gabriel, and I am here at the Comedy and Magic Club with another episode of Behind the Punchlines. Number one, what inspired you to become a comedian? When I was a kid, I used to watch all of the comedy specials that would come on HBO, and I would record them on our VHS, and I would watch them over and over. And one time they had the special that was the Women of the Night with Ellen DeGeneres and Rita Rudner and Judy Tenuta and Paula Poundstone. And I loved it, and I watched it over and over. And a few months later, Paula Poundstone was performing at the comedy club in San Francisco, where I grew up. She was playing at Cobb's, and my mom called Cobb's and asked if she could bring her 13-year-old son to see Paula, and they let her. And my mom took me to Cobb's, and we watched Paula, and she noticed that there was a kid in the crowd, and she did about 20 minutes of crowd work with me, and afterwards I got her autograph, and it changed my life. And I just was, amazed by all the whole scene, the club, the laughs, how smooth she was, and I just I fell in love with it. Can you recall your first stand-up performance, and what was it like? Is there anybody that is doing this show that can't recall their first stand-up performance? I think that's a little... Anyway, my first stand-up performance, here it goes. I wrote jokes for like 6 months. I figured out when the open mic night was going to be at the San Francisco Punchline, and they were doing open mics on Monday nights. So I spent a couple of months just trying to write jokes, and all of my friends in college were very supportive. They thought I was really funny, and they wanted to support me in starting stand-up. So they wanted to come with me for that first night. And if you are a comedian starting out, I want to give you some advice. Do not bring all your friends with you, because it's a solo thing. You need to go there and meet everybody kind of on your own. And I stupidly brought all my friends, and they didn't put me on until like the very last. After all the local comics did a set, they did a thing called Joke Parade, where they let all the new people go up and tell one joke. And I went up and told one joke. It was a stupid joke about Ron Popeil, the inventor guy who would sell inventions in the middle of the night, and it didn't do that great. It kind of tanked, to be honest. And I had to drive back an hour and a half to UC Davis, where I was going to school with all of my friends, after only being able to tell one joke that kind of ate it, and it was a very uncomfortable ride back. But while I was there, I met another comic named Chris Hobbs, who was awesome, and he gave me a lot of advice. And he said, "Oh, you're going to Davis. Here's a guy you should get in touch with. His name is Mo Betterman, and he will get you plugged into the Sacramento open mic scene." And that led to everything else. So it wasn't a waste, but that first night, I ate it. What advice would you give to someone starting out in stand-up comedy? And my advice would be, like I said before, do not take all of your friends with you to every show. Show up solo and get used to making strangers laugh. Making your friends laugh doesn't impress anybody. And don't be too in a rush to post every set that you do. A lot of comedy is just working on a concept and figuring out how the joke is supposed to go, and you got to take a lot of time preparing your meal before you serve it. I think a lot of comics today are rushing in to posting their comedy before it is ready. It's a product, and you have to think of it as a product and make sure that your product is ready before you put it on the shelf. How do you balance comedy with your personal life? Okay, this is a good question. I think that comedy has to connect with people. So you have to live a life. You have to have experiences, and you have to walk down a lot of different roads so that you have something to talk about. If you're just doing nothing but comedy and that is your only thing and you have no life to talk about or to reference, then you're not standing on level ground. And all of your comedy is going to be too abstract and have nothing to really hit people, to connect with people. So you have to have a personal life and experience things so that you have something to talk about. What is the most unusual place you've ever performed comedy? During the pandemic, I did a show in a drive-in where people were in their cars listening to me on the radio. I had a mic and it was broadcasting into their radios, and if they liked the joke, they would honk. But I hadn't done a set in 6 months, so I was so thirsty for for laughs and approval that those honks were just music to my ears. Also, I did another show with a really cool river in the background, and I will send a photo of that show that I did, because just the background was the coolest background you've ever seen. I've been performing comedy here at the Comedy Magic Club for I think 18 years, because my son Max is 17 and I started playing here shortly before Max was born. A very good friend of mine, Ty Barnett, one day said, "Hey, I'm going to the Comedy Magic Club. Do you want to come with me?" And I came down here with him, and Richard was nice enough to give me a set, and it went well, and I got to keep working here. And then I was doing the Late Late Show, and I asked if I could practice my set, and Richard let me get a couple of practice sets in here before I taped it, and I've been working here ever since. And then when my son Max was born, I brought him on stage when he was just a baby. I put him on my shoulders, and I brought him out on stage to close the show. And it's crazy that he's almost 18 now, and it is a full person that no longer fits on my shoulders.
And how is to work with the legend Mr. Jay Leno?
It doesn't feel real when you're sitting there talking to Jay. He's just such a nice guy, and he just makes you feel so warm and welcoming, and it's fantastic. I can't say enough about working with Jay and Jimmy Brogan. I am also a big Jimmy Brogan fan, and anytime I get to hang out with Jimmy, and anytime I get to hang out with Jay and watch Jay, it's a good night of work.